Carlos Ramirez, owner of NVS Audio in Roselle, New Jersey. Me and Brandon Davidson from Panama City, Florida, tackled a set of Nagy ring installs. So Nagy just came out with the rings for the 2019 and up Indians. The saddlebags are the same across all the Indian bagger platforms, starting in 2019 to current. So Tim did a great job on these rings. The fit and finish is incredible. We're working on with him to finish up the tooling. So we want to close the opening at the top a little bit. So just the latch assembly fits through, but he did an amazing job. Me and Brandon are going to walk you through step by step how we install them. You need a jigsaw, skill saw, something of the sort, full-size router or a laminate trimmer or a mini router like we like to use, a flush trim bit. Then if you're going to use a large subwoofer or mid-bass driver, you're going to have to open up the inner ring hole, and for that we used a rabbit bit and a reverse mounted flush trim bit that has the bearing on the bottom and the cutter blade on top. We have a router table, so we're able to use that. Most people don't, so if you don't have a router table, you're gonna have to use a handheld router, use a rabbit bit, and then carefully run the small laminate trimmer router on the inside and flush it out. If you don't have any of these, then you're just gonna have to grind and grind and grind and grind. So if you're using a smaller mid-bass driver, you don't have to worry about it. If you're using a larger mid-bass driver or subwoofer, there's some work that needs to be done. But we made the video as comprehensive as possible. Hope you enjoy it. Tim Nagy, thank you for doing a great job on these rings. Check this out. So these are Tim's rings. Matches the profile of the bag exactly. Look at that. Bam. Love it, Tim. Okay, this is how you position the ring. You gotta make sure that butts up against there, like that, perfectly. Then you know you're in the right position. Hold that for me. And we take our China marker. You want to mark the inside and the outside of the ring. The reason you want to do it this way is you can rough cut the bag. You do not want the router doing all the work. You want the jigsaw doing all the work, and the router's just going to come clean up your line. So with the China marker, you know exactly where the inside and the outside of the ring are. So now that everything is marked, you can pre-drill your screw holes here, wherever you want to mount it. And when you rough cut, you want to be closer than 1/4 and 1/8 inch away from that line. So you want to rough cut around here. That way, when you come around with the router after you put the ring back in, the router just cleans up this much material, not trying to clean up all this material. So we're going to hit it with a jigsaw, and we're going to follow this line here. Then we're going to follow it back with the router after we put the ring in, and it's going to clean up to that line there. So this is going to be our rough cut line. And let's go. You can go ahead and drill the pilot hole. Literally drills at the hardest part of the bag. All right, he's going to drill from the outside while watching, make sure he doesn't go over the white line on the inside. It's not rocket science, you just got to take your time and do it. to go ahead and clean this up a little bit to get it closer so our router does less work. Me and Brandon have a lot of experience, so he's able to breeze through that in seconds. It's going to give you a much harder time at home. But one thing I want you to be aware of, you want a jigsaw blade that's not too aggressive. This is actually a metal blade, and you want a good jigsaw. It's got a lot of torque. Do not use the more aggressive blade. You can use a blade that's got a little more teeth, a little less teeth than this. But if you use the super aggressive blades, they're actually going to rip chunks out of the bags and might damage the paint. So you notice how he cut that smoothly and there's no chunks of paint missing. We recommend a high tooth count blade. You could have a little less teeth than this. This is 21 teeth per inch, so you can use maybe 18, 16, but nothing lower than that. You will start ripping chunks out of the bag. So now we're gonna pre-drill some holes, mount the ring in place, and then use our flush trim laminate trimmer or mini router to clean those lines up.
Here, you want 3 or 4 on each side?
Well, let's just do 2 for now, just to hold the ring in place.
Okay. Hell no, that's not gonna be big enough. That was, I think, right here. I don't know this fucker's gonna
I think that's good.
Okay.
So he just pilot hole using a 960 torch. Then he used a 3/16 drill bit to open the holes up.
There he's done.
So Brandon's now going to pre-drill the ring. That way. Get the screws in there nice and easy with no splitting.
You got it? I was gonna set it down. Put down the feet.
Now that we have the ring temporarily installed, we can run our mini router and flush trim it nice and even. So we're using a flush trim bit. I'm gonna clean up that bearing a little bit first. I like the one with the 3 blades. It cuts a little bit smoother. So what happens is this bearing is going to actually ride along the inside of the ring while the blade cuts this flush. Brandon's cleaning off the bearing so we get a nice, clean, even cut. Please wear eye protection when you do this, like Brandon is, because you do not want super hot melted plastic in your eyeball. It is not fun.
No, it sure is not.
No, you want to go in there slowly and just take it easy and remove a little bit of material at a time. The router will tell you if you're removing too much because it will start to scream and jump and shake. 2 hands on the router at all times. This is the on button right here. So the reason Brandon stopped there is if he went to here, there's nothing for the router to ride on and it would actually cut too much of the bag. So he stopped just shy of that. And then we're gonna come back and clean that line up with a regular jigsaw and then sand it smooth. So now he's gonna start over here just past the latch where he's got a guide for the bearing to ride on and then continue his cut on down. So notice how we just used the router to clean the line up. We didn't use it to cut out the bag. The jigsaw cuts out the bag. The router flushes the line and makes it nice and clean. So now we got to take care of this little lip. And this one's good to go. I only wanted to go to the first line to get a cleaner look, but Brandon said that we might have to notch it out a little more because the woofer won't go in because this is really close to the size of the entry hole. But we're gonna try this first, and then if he's correct, we're gonna go ahead and open this up more. Let's go grab the woofer. So we're dropping one of the big boy woofers in just to test fit. Euphoria Expert Carbon, not even close. That's not because of this hole, that's because of the hole in the back. You have to remember, Tim builds these to work with just about every woofer out there. So if the woofer doesn't fit, you can open up the hole. If you're using a smaller woofer and the hole's too big, he can't shrink the hole for you. So we're gonna have to go ahead and unmount the ring and open up this hole. You can grind it down, you can router it. So we're gonna go ahead and, first I'm gonna get a smaller woofer to show you the smaller woofers do drop in. So the yellow basket comes a lot closer to fitting, but you have to make sure you orient the terminals to the top. So you fish it in this way, and it comes closer to fitting, but you still gotta open the hole up. So we're gonna go ahead over to the router table, and we're gonna open up that hole, make these woofers drop in. So pull the ring out. So now we have to open up this hole. So you can grind it. We're going over to our router table, and then we're going to use a rabbit bit, and then we're going to use the death bit to follow it up. Okay, so we're using a 1/8 rabbit bit. It's got a bearing, and then it's going to cut away an 1/8 inch material from here. And then we're follow it up with another bit that has a bearing. It's going to ride along here and cut the rest off. We're doing 2 passes, so you see already cut the material on the bottom. So we're going to remove a little more material on the top. That way the other bit does very little work. So now we just have to remove that little lip. So we're gonna switch over to the death bit. I freaking hate this bit because with this bit, just this much of the cutting blade is above the table. With this bit, the entire damn blade is above the table. You have to be very careful when you use it. If you don't have these tools, you can use the small hand router and use bits like these, but this makes it a lot quicker and faster. So he's going to switch the blades really quick. Good. Nice clean hole to accept our big woofer. Okay, so 1 pass of the 1/8 inch was not enough for the Euphoria, but it is for the Cicada. So we're going to show you the Euphoria still doesn't fit, so you'd have to pass it again. See that? But since that's the woofer we're going to be running, we're going to leave it like that. So now I gotta mount the ring back in. Now we're gonna go ahead and drill the other holes so we can secure it with all the screws, and then go ahead and mount the woofer. The rest of our holes are drilled. Now we're doing the final ring assembly. Some people panel bond their rings on. There's nothing wrong with that. So at this point is when you would panel bind it. So use a high quality panel bond like 3M, whatever you want to use. You apply a thin bead, then you clamp or screw in place and let it sit overnight. We're just using screws. No need to panel bond it. It's just the way we do it here at the shop. And we like to be able to take the ring off if something goes wrong. We ended up with a very small lip here. We're just gonna hit it with the router again now that it's finally assembled. This side came out perfect. Now we're gonna just flush that up a little bit. Just make sure it's nice and clean. Tim did a really good job on these rings. The quality of these rings is really good. When you use cheaper rings or they're not made right, you end up with a gap here that sometimes you gotta fill with body filler or panel bond. Look how tight that is. No glue. Okay, so now we're just gonna run some sandpaper along the edge to clean the edge up, but this bag is ready to go. If we were only doing 10 in the bag, not sealed, not ported, this would be ready to go. But this one's getting sealed and ported, so we still gotta run our port. Our port's gonna go out there, and we still gotta run our topper. That'll be for tomorrow's video. But there's 10-inch ring. What is it, 19 through 23? Indian bags, 2019 through 2023, newer body style. Drop that woofer in there. These are Tim Nagy's 10-inch rings for the Indians 2019 and up. Brandon did a great job for us. And we'll see you guys tomorrow.